Karma here with your Saturn in Aries, Saturn Retrograde cheat codes. If you are here, you recognize how we are influenced by the push and tug of the planets and stars. With the understanding of how this influences us in life, we can better navigate life's obstacles. So welcome to the club, and let's talk next steps. So for the Saturn in Aries, Saturn retrograde energy, the signs that will feel this the heaviest, everybody will feel it, but the signs that will feel it the heaviest is first and foremost Aries. Aries, baby, Aries. Ooh, Aries. Okay, because Saturn is moving to Aries. Okay, and then the next signs that we have for honorable mention are Aquarius, Pisces, and Gemini. So anyone with their sun, moon, or rising sign in Aries, Aquarius, Pisces, or Gemini, you're going to feel this most. This has a chance of rocking your world. And I'm sure you already been feeling the impact. So let's get into some dates. Saturn transitions to Aries on May 25th, 2025. Then Saturn will leave Aries back to Pisces on September 1st, 2025. Then on November 28th, Saturn will station direct and will start to move forward back through Pisces towards Aries and will re-enter Aries February of 2026. This is going to be a spicy time. Whenever any planet hits Aries, it gets spicy. Aries represents passion, desire, courage, assertiveness, ruthlessness, impulsiveness, and impatience. And Saturn is kind of the opposite. It rules over discipline, ambition, caution, and persistence. So there will be a fight between impulse and caution that will work its way into your energy during this time. In 2025, Saturn will only reach the end of the first degree in Aries before it turns retrograde and heads back towards Pisces. At this point in July, Saturn will be in conjunction with Neptune, which will also pop into retrograde right before Saturn pops into retrograde. Saturn will be sextile to Pluto and Uranus. So this Saturn in Aries energy is something that will expose opportunities that will help your shift into a new era in your life. Please look out for the Saturn, Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus combination video. I will be posting that shortly. So let's jump into the first event in detail. On May 25th, Saturn will enter Aries and it will remain in Aries until 2028, with the exception of retrograde, which will move Saturn back into Pisces for a brief period of time. Saturn is in its fall in Aries, and that's a difficult energy to navigate because they are polar opposites in nature. In short, Saturn is slow, Aries is fast. Saturn is cautious. Aries is impulsive. Saturn represents lessons, obligation, caution, and endurance, while Aries represents leadership, action, courageousness, and impulsiveness. Overall, this is a period where we learn to stop dragging our feet on things we made plans for, or we learn how to make plans for things that we are very impulsive about. This is a moment of lessons, and these lessons will play a big part in your overall shift in era. And that relates to Pluto transitioning into Aquarius and all of the other outer planets transitioning into a new sign this year. Pluto will be in Aquarius for the next 19 years. So think of the period between May 25th and September 1st as a moment where you get to dip your toe in the energy of what is coming towards you in this larger shift in your life. Let me give you an analogy. From now until July 13th, the energy will be like learning to ride a bike with the training wheels on. You'll be able to maneuver whichever way you want to make the bike go forward. However, the habits that you form in this moment are going to be habits that you're going to need to correct when those training wheels come off. And those training wheels will come off starting retrograde. So in this moment, you should be paying attention to the things and events that arise in your life between now and July 13th. This is important for future navigation. Also in this moment, you want to concentrate on making good habits for yourself as you learn to ride this bike. Because Saturn is a planet of karma. And to put it another way, Saturn is a planet of results based on action and intention. So try to base your actions in these moments around structure, effort, persistence, and caution. Because the Aries energy is going to want to make you go opposite of that. So there is a need for you to concentrate on taking things slow as you move through this new energy in your life. I would advise you to kind of keep like a notepad or a journal and take notes of the things that kind of seem very important in your life right now. This will help you remember and navigate through this energy once Saturn makes its way back through Aries during retrograde. In total, this will be a 9-month process between now where Saturn goes into Aries, pops into retrograde, goes into Pisces, pops back into Aries. It'll be a total of 9 months, which is why I recommend taking notes and keeping a journal. It'll help you remember the things that were most important to you in this moment so that when you revisit later, you can better understand which direction you're actually going. On July 13th, Saturn goes into retrograde. Think of Saturn retrograde as an audit on your karma. What actions have you taken in the year 2025? What energy have you put out there? What lessons are you refusing to learn? What promises did you make to yourself and never followed through with? So if we take a step back to the analogy that I use for learning to ride a bike, right? As Saturn pops into Aries on May 25th, the training wheels are on and you're able to maneuver however it is that you need to maneuver, but the concentration needs to be you making good practice and good habits of learning to ride the bike in the correct way. Now with Saturn coming into retrograde, this is where those training wheels begin to come off. So with Saturn popping into retrograde, there's a need to focus on refinement and restructure for longevity. You don't want to keep falling off that bike, right? So there's a need for you to learn how to ride the bike better so that you can stay on the bike longer. In the retrograde energy, Saturn will be forcing us to look at the habits we have formed and give us an opportunity to tidy up what is exposed. With Saturn in Aries, this could be many things returning back to you. This energy will really revolve around your impulsive actions and lack of follow through on your desires. Now, this can go in any direction. It could be you sitting too heavily in Saturn's slow and cautious energy, or sitting too heavily in Aries' fast and impulsive energy. There will be a need for you to find a balance between the two, and this will be the moment for you to do that. Additionally, Saturn in retrograde is probably going to get kind of chaotic for some of us because this will be a true period of what goes around comes around. Karma. The purpose of this will not be to punish, but to be around energy on how to better improve impulsive behaviors or lack thereof. So pay attention to what comes around. And energy is a two-way street, so this won't necessarily revolve just around your energy. There is an energy of karmic justice here that we will feel as well. If someone did you wrong or left you an emotional heartache and their intention was to do so, you could probably see a return of this energy. Again, what goes around comes around. And just remember, Saturn is around lessons. I would not suggest you see these karmic justice situations as opportunities or moments where you need to reopen the door, recuperate something, reconcile with this person or situation. This is the time for you to accept your justice, process, and move on. Because if you don't, this will result in another lesson for you because you did not learn your lesson in the first place about this person or situation. So again, in this retrograde energy, practice patience and caution. So now let's think about all of the things that have happened in the sign of Aries this year. Venus and Mercury entered Aries in February and March. Then both went into retrograde in March. Then we had the final solar eclipse in Aries and new moon in Aries. And then Neptune entered Aries at the end of March. That was a lot. March was heavy. So really think back to March, February, March, April, really. What happened in your life that stands out? What was reoccurring in your life year over year starting in 2023? There is heavy emphasis on the Aries eclipse season, which has historically happened between March and April since 2023. So there was an Aries eclipse in 2023, 2024, and 2025. Keep that in the back of your mind because Saturn was in Pisces when all of this was happening. And Saturn is going to be retrograding back to Pisces. Okay? And that will happen on September 1st. Again, if you have a memory like mine, my advice will be to jot down some notes on what it is that you remember right now. Keep a journal. I would suggest to keep an astrological journal so that you can write down these things that are coming into your life and you are observing the events in your life and have a better understanding of where it is that you are going. So what happened back then? Keep the conclusion or the current energy of that situation or situations in mind when Saturn enters Aries and ultimately goes retrograde back towards Pisces. Remember, Saturn is responsible for karma, so justice will be served either way. Which side of the fence are you on? On September 1st, 2025, Saturn will re-enter Pisces and will retrograde back to 25 degrees of Pisces. Again, you may see reoccurring themes revisit you that you were working through all the way back in April of 2025. Between April 1st and November 28th, you could possibly be rehashing and revisiting things you experienced earlier in the year when Saturn was in Pisces. What happened between April 1st, which is when Saturn was in 25 degrees of Pisces, and May 25th, when Saturn entered Aries? What energy did you experience? Additionally, remember the energy or your notes from what has been reoccurring or building since 2023. What has happened between then and now? What has seemed pretty stagnant in your life? What has taken a lot of energy to build? What was your soul pulled towards or from, but continued to linger in the background? Saturn retrograde in Pisces is going to make some of this energy bubble up to the surface. As stated before, Saturn represents discipline, ambition, caution, and persistence, while Pisces represents things of your imagination, like your dreams, desires, and fears, delusions, and illusions. There is something that has been continuously exposed and has required you to apply your work ethic to bring this into fruition. At this time, you could feel like you're deciding which way you are ultimately going to go or finally going to go, because this is something that has lingered for you for some years in stagnant energy. Consider the energy that pops up September 1st through November 11th as a final hurrah. It's really poop or get off the pot. Are you going to reach for your dreams, or are you going to allow yourself to self-sabotage or allow your fears to keep you from something that your soul is reaching for? Retrograde is going to dig up some energy that you need to revisit and finally decide which direction you're going to take. This will be a time to reflect, rehash, and restructure that energy for a final time. My advice: don't allow your fears or self-sabotage to undo the progress you have made all the way up to this point. And if you feel like you haven't made any progress, now is the perfect time to understand why. Are you holding yourself back because of fear? Or are you being pushed in a different direction entirely? This is the perfect time to figure that out. On November 28th, Saturn goes direct. Whew! Retrograde will be over. However, Saturn will not re-enter Aries until February of 2026. So it will linger in Pisces all the way to the end of 2025 and January of 2026. This direct motion in Pisces for the rest of the year will be a time to finally hash out the energies that Saturn retrograde has drug in. This is the time where you find the final forward movement in the Saturn and Pisces era that started in March 2023. You know what else started in March of 2023? The Aries eclipse season. Retrograde should have brought some clarifying energy to show you whether you are going towards or away from something specific. Write a reminder in your calendar for November 28th so that when you get to this day, you can kind of do like a pulse check. And it'll be even better if you add your notes to that. Do things feel more stable, or are they falling apart? If stable, That means you are making your way to continue to build on this energy. If things feel unstable, it may mean it's time to let this cookie crumble. Don't question that clarity or even try to fight it. The conclusion or introduction will be inevitable. This moment will be where you concentrate on making the appropriate steps and which direction you need to make them. Because once Saturn pops into Aries, it's go time. And if you try to fight and go in the opposite direction you are meant to go in, you're going to do nothing but bring chaos to yourself. And we'll cover Saturn transitioning back into Aries when we get to that date in February of 2026. So if you made it all the way to the end of this video, I thank you so much. Please like, share, subscribe, and all the things. I appreciate your time and thank you for your support. Bye.